In the heart of Arabia, where the sun scorched the earth and silence was broken only by the whispers of the wind, a storm of faith began to rise. It wasn't a storm of swords or armies, it was the call of one man, challenging the powerful, the traditions, and the idols that ruled every corner of this land. But with every truth comes resistance, with every light comes a shadow. For those who embraced the message of Islam, the price was paid in blood, in tears, and in unimaginable pain. They were beaten, burned, torn apart. But their hearts never wavered. Their belief in the oneness of Allah became their armor, even as their bodies were broken.
Do people think that they will be left alone because they say, "We believe, and will not be tested, and we indeed tested those who were before them, and Allah will certainly make it known those who are true, and will certainly make it known those who are liars"?
These were the first Muslims, ordinary people who displayed extraordinary courage. Their sacrifices paved the way for the faith we cherish today. This is their story. Before Islam, Makkah was a city of idols. The Khabbab, built by Prophet Ibrahim as a house of worship for Allah, had been reduced to a shrine for false gods. Over 360 idols stood around it, each representing the traditions and power of the Quraysh. This wasn't just a religious system, it was an economic one. The Quraysh profited from idol worship, and their power depended on maintaining this way of life. But when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, began calling people to worship Allah alone, everything changed. He called for equality, justice, and an end to oppression. He reminded the people that idols could neither benefit them nor harm them.
You worship besides Allah only idols, and you invent falsehood. Indeed, those you worship besides Allah do not possess for you the power of provision. So seek from Allah provision and worship Him and be grateful to Him. To Him you will be returned.
The Quraysh saw this as an attack, not just on their gods, but on their wealth, their status, and their traditions. They were determined to crush this message before it could take root. And so began the persecution. Among the first to embrace Islam were people of great character and humility. Khadija, the Prophet's wife, was his greatest supporter. Abu Bakr, his closest friend, became a source of strength for the new Muslims. Ali, the young cousin of the Prophet, displayed wisdom beyond his years. But
is paradise.
the Quraysh didn't stop at physical torture. They declared a complete social and economic boycott of the Muslims and their supporters. For 3 years, the Muslims were exiled to the valley of Abu Talib. Cut off from food, water, and trade, they faced starvation and unimaginable suffering.
Indeed, with hardship will be ease. Indeed, with hardship will be ease.
During the boycott, the Muslims' resolve was tested beyond imagination. It wasn't just the physical deprivation that broke them but also the psychological isolation inflicted upon them. Merchants refused to trade with them, friends turned away out of fear of the Quraysh, and even distant relatives severed ties. Food became so scarce that the Muslims were forced to survive on leaves and roots from the barren valley. Nights were filled with cries of hungry children, sounds that echoed through the silence like daggers to the heart of every parent. Mothers would chew on dry twigs, pretending to eat, just to comfort their little ones. Fathers dug desperately at the earth, searching for any sustenance that might save their families. It is said that Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, one of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, found a piece of dried animal skin during the boycott. He cleaned it, soaked it in water, and chewed on it for days to stave off hunger. This was not an isolated incident but a reflection of the depths to which the Muslims were pushed. Many would tie stones to their stomachs, a practice the Prophet himself adopted to suppress hunger pangs. Yet, despite the severity of their situation, their faith remained unwavering. In the dead of night, while the Quraysh celebrated their power, whispers of prayer would rise from the valley, an unshakable testament to the strength of their conviction. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, bore the suffering of his followers with a heavy heart. He would walk through the valley, encouraging his companions, reminding them of the reward that awaited them in the hereafter. He would reassure the mothers and fathers, saying, "Patience, for indeed, Allah's victory is near." Even in such despair, the Muslims found comfort in the Prophet's words, drawing strength from his calm, resolute demeanor. Amidst the darkness, there were moments of light. Some non-Muslims, moved by the plight of the Prophet's followers, secretly sent food and supplies into the valley. Hisham ibn Amir, for example, would load provisions at night and deliver them under the cover of darkness, risking his life to alleviate their suffering. His courage and compassion stood in stark contrast to the cruelty of the Quraysh. Despite the dire circumstances, the boycott ultimately failed to achieve its purpose. The Quraysh believed that isolating the Muslims would force them to abandon their faith, but it only strengthened their resolve. The solidarity and sacrifice of the early Muslims served as a powerful reminder of the unbreakable bond that faith creates among believers. They emerged from the valley of Abu Talib weary and emaciated, but victorious in spirit. These 3 years of suffering were a turning point in the history of Islam. The perseverance of the believers, their refusal to compromise on their faith, and their reliance on Allah's mercy paved the way for future victories. It was in this crucible of hardship that the foundations of the Muslim community were strengthened, a community built on patience, sacrifice, and unwavering faith in the oneness of Allah. The stories of Bilal, Khabbab, Yasir, Sumayyah, and so many others remind us of the price they paid for Islam. Their trials are not just moments in history, they are lessons for us today. How do we honor their sacrifices? Are we steadfast in our faith? Do we uphold the values they fought and died for? As we enjoy the blessings of freedom and faith, let us remember their struggles. Let us strive to live as Muslims who honor their legacy, not just in words but in action. May Allah grant us the strength to remain steadfast and carry forward the light they protected with their lives.
أحد